and thank you for checking in. I wanted to start with just saying that this is new for me. I'm not used to doing live videos or teaching live, because when I am teaching, I teach a lot, and I like having like a collaboration with the students. I like being able to see them and tell if what I'm saying is landing with them, answer questions, and if it's not making sense, then I can, try to explain it in a different way. It's what's kept me from teaching a class like this for so long, is because I want to be able to see people. I want to be able to interact with them, and it's much harder to do that when I'm just looking at a camera and I can't see the people who are tuning in. But we're going to try it. I'm going to try it today. You can drop some questions or comments, and I can see them here on my screen. So if you have questions about anything, we can definitely go over that. So today I want to talk about befriending the body, what that means, and why it is always important, and yet even more important in times like this, in times where we are collectively going through something really difficult. So the term befriending the body, it's just something that kind of like popped into my head, because it's important. It's another part of self-care. It's also another way of just saying, being gentle with yourself and not being judgmental of yourself. Because to go through life kind of always having this negative self-talk is really not helping you, not helping us at all, right? So we're going to talk about what it means to befriend the body and how we can start to do that. This is similar to other classes I've taught in theme as far as like trauma response. And I taught a class a couple weeks ago called "Why Am I So Tired?" during quarantine. So this is sort of like in that same vein. So when we're talking about befriending the body, it helps to think about ourselves holistically. I'm a holistic healer, but I like the term holistic, WHOLE, because it means that there is more than an aspect to us. Yes, we are, as I like, that meme that says, we're just covered skeletons riding a rock through outer space. That's true, and I like that. But when we look at the body holistically, there's actually much more to us than just that. So we have 6 different aspects of self. We've got our physical and our mental, which is like our mind and our body, of course, but we also have an emotional body. We have an energetic body. And then we have our spiritual body, our spiritual aspects, and then relational. And relational can describe not just our relationships with other people, but how all of these other aspects interact with each other and affect each other. So for befriending the body, what we're going to be kind of talking about here, we're going to be dealing with these first 3, physical, mental, emotional. That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So to befriend means to become friends with someone or something, maybe for the first time. And for us, understanding the body as something to be friends with, that might be a new concept. That might be something that we're doing for the first time, especially if we've had maybe not the greatest modeling, or if we've been brought up to believe that we have to condemn our bodies or be ashamed of them. If we're, we're getting messages all the time from society about what beauty is, and if we don't match that, there can be shame. Like all of these things can pop in to like mess with us and mess with our relationship and our friendship with our bodies. So to befriend the body means to kind of remove ourselves from some of that shame and judgment that we're getting from other people, or maybe that's been modeled for us to internalize, and instead meet the body with the absence of judgment and with great, great love. I have my notes here. They're a little discombobulated because I was trying to like write all of this out before I started. So you should see this. Everything would fall apart if I tried to hold it up, but there's like arrows. There's arrows going across the binder. But what I find when I work with clients is that, you know, we talk about loving the body and caring for it and stuff and having a good relationship with it. And we tend to do that much easier when our body is being compliant, when it's performing the way that we want it to and doing the things that we want it to do. And maybe that requires a little bit of pushing, like if we're, you know, like getting up early in the morning to like go work out, we don't want to, we push it through that, and that's okay. But I'm talking more about our bodies being, you know, like generally healthy, not in pain, when they're being compliant. But we're thrust into this pandemic situation. We are thrust into a collective trauma. It's putting us a bit in a dark night of the soul all at once, everybody. And suddenly our bodies aren't as compliant anymore. They're doing weird stuff that maybe we don't understand. Maybe weird pains are coming out of nowhere. Strange emotions that we wish would just go the hell away because they're uncomfortable. And it would be so much easier to get through the day if we had energy, but we don't. And why is that? Damn it, body. And suddenly our bodies are not these compliant companions anymore. And that's not because they're rebelling. The body is not rebelling against anything or anybody. It's not rebelling against us. It's sounding alarms. It's letting us know that there's danger, because that's what we've evolved to do. We have a very sophisticated and intelligent system in our body that tells us when we are in danger, and it keeps us alive and it keeps us safe. But now that response system, that trauma response system, is being a little bit triggered, or a lot triggered, by all this that's going on. Understanding fight, flight, freeze, and fold patterns can be really helpful when we talk about what is it that we're befriending and what is it that we're not judging when we're talking about befriending the body. We can be more compassionate with ourselves when we understand that our bodies just didn't suddenly get lazy and stupid, that they're actually reacting in a way that we've evolved to react. We are not to, you know, there's nothing wrong with us. Our body is working exactly the way it's supposed to. We're in fight, flight, freeze, or fold response right now. And it's usually called fight or flight. That rolls off the tongue really easily. It helps instead to think of it as flight, fight, freeze, and fold. We start with flight because when we are threatened, our first instinct that exists outside of conscious and logical thought, that it exists outside of emotion even, our first response is to run away. But we can't run away from this. We're not even allowed to leave our house. So our body then feels trapped. Then the next step is a bracing energy for a fight. But we can't fight this. We don't even know where it is. Is it in my house? Is it on my body? Is it on my groceries? Is it on my neighbor? We can't even see it. So we've just got this wanting to run away, like this like quick jackrabbit-esque like energy that goes, ah! And then and then we've also got this energy that's like, oh, I gotta fight. And we can't do anything with it. So we're just holding it. Our body's sitting there just holding it for us. And that's really tiring. And the next step in the trauma response pattern is fold. You've seen Possum playing dead, right? Or it's like, I can't run away and I can't fight, so I'm just gonna collapse. I'm just going to collapse, freeze, and fold. And our bodies are doing that a little bit too. You might wonder, why do I nap so much? Why am I so tired? It's because of all of this energy that our body's holding for us. So instead of judging and shaming our body, God damn it, body, why can't you just get on the rowing machine and row for a little bit? Like, why is it so hard to do the simplest things? Well, of course it's hard to do the simplest things. The body's actually doing exactly what it's evolved to do. So rather than judge and shame ourselves, we can be compassionate and gentle and friendly. We are never, how do I want to say this? So we're never going to be able to judge ourselves into self-love. Never, ever going to be able to shame yourself into feeling good. You can't say, I should or shouldn't do this, and get to a point where you're going to start to feel okay. Instead, we can treat our body the way we would a friend, the way we would a friend who's scared or grieving or in pain. Now, I know that not all of us have great friendships, right? How many books, how many think pieces have been written about how we want our friends to just hold space for us, but maybe they try to step in and fix us, or toxic friendships or something like that. That's not what we're talking about today. I'm not talking about the imperfectness of our human relationships or the imperfectness of our friendships. That's okay. That's not what we're talking about. Instead, we're talking about the wonderful opportunity that we have to be that kind of friend that maybe we've never had. We can do that for ourselves because it's not reliant on somebody else meeting us where we are. We get to meet ourselves where we are. And all it takes is us. We are the only element in the equation. We get to honor and witness these beautiful processes that our body's going through outside of having to judge the hell out of it, outside of having to fit in to society's model of what beauty is or energy level is or anything like that, and just take time to honor ourselves through whatever it is we're going through. You know how many clients I have had in the last month who said, all of a sudden, I'm having this terrible pain. And it's just like when I went through that car accident, but that was years ago, but now it's back. Of course it's back. There's nothing wrong with you. It's your body held on to that trauma of the car accident. And now that you're going through another trauma, or we are going through another trauma, your body says, oh, that's right. It's just like the last time. And responds in kind because it's protecting you. The bracing worked the last time to not snap your spine. That way of holding all of that stuff kept your body from hitting the windshield. So your body's doing the same thing all over again. And there's nothing shameful about it. There's nothing to be hated or judged about it. Instead, what we can do is say, thank you so much. Thank you, body. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. You're doing the best you can. And I thank you for that. And there's no judgment in that. So how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? Well, right now I invite you to take just a moment. This isn't a grand meditation. You don't need to adjust lighting or anything like that. Just take a moment, maybe close your eyes, and check in with your own body. You take a cleansing breath and really check in and see if there's pain that you're having, or sensation, emotions that are coming up and where that might land in the body. Even hunger and thirst, even stuff like that. Notice those things. And rather than, attaching to those thoughts, just accept that. Accept that you have that pain. It's weird to accept that you're having pain because we want to fix it. We always want to fix it. But good friends don't always try to nag us into fixing it. Just hold space. Just hold space for us to vent. How many times have you said, or to a friend, well, I'm here if you just want to vent? Do we offer that to our body? Do we listen to our body when it's in pain? Pain is our body's way of alerting us to a problem, something that should get our attention. Do we let it vent? Do we listen? This is our opportunity to listen. And say, thank you. Thank you for holding that for me. Thank you for being my companion. And if you still have your eyes closed, you can open them now. So you notice what we didn't do there? We didn't say to ourselves, we didn't say to the body, I wish you would just, or can you just not, or whatever, or why don't you just, or you disgust me. We didn't say those things. Because we're approaching ourselves, starting with the body, eventually moving all the way up this ladder, but starting with the body, with the absence of judgment. Because we're being the friend that we always needed and maybe never had. The absence of judgment is actually a term that kind of dropped into my head a few years ago. I don't talk about this. I've actually never spoken about this to classes or on live or anything like that or on social media, but there's a different sensation, different sensitivities that people have. Like you've heard of like clairvoyant, where you can kind of like see the future. There's other clairs, and I have been really grateful and lucky to be clairaudient, meaning that when I'm working on a client, sometimes I hear messages from that person's energy, or I hear actually messages from spirit, from source, from the universe. You could call it anything. You could call it God, I guess. But it comes through usually in words, not pictures, words. It's like I see it written in my mind. Like if you're going to imagine what a written sentence would look like. And what came through for this one woman I was working on one time was absence of judgment. And it was interesting because as I was working on her, she kept having these like muscle tics and flails a little bit, and like big, just like release movements. When when an energy practitioner is working on somebody, that's actually a really good sign, because it means that the body's releasing tension that it's been holding on to, a lot of that bracing energy that we talked about. And for so to kind of have this like flail or like this unconscious movement or involuntary movement, it's actually a wonderful thing. But she was getting so frustrated. She was judging herself for having these involuntary tics and movements, and was getting frustrated to the point that she wasn't able to relax for the session. And that's the kind of like download I got in that moment, was just like, absence of judgment. Like, you can let it happen and not shame yourself for it or not feel badly about yourself for it. You can allow your body to do what it needs to do. It's okay. And in allowing it is able to release, like, whether it's pent up energy or negative self-talk or anything that we're holding on to that's not serving us, it's not sustainable. It's not sustainable for our health. Anything that we're doing that we're able to relax and not judge gets released instead of just coming back on us with all of the judgment and becoming like this layered onion of self-judgment. There's no need for that. So we stop the cycle. We stop the cycle of judgment when we're able to befriend our body and befriend the processes it goes through, even when we don't like them. When we create that space of non-judgment, we can create space for more love. And that translates to our bodies not needing to be in pain to get our attention. And it translates to being able to be more loving in our thoughts. And that translates into being able to be more loving in our relationships with others. And it's just, it can be just a virtuous cycle instead of a vicious cycle. Now, we've talked about the physical body, and I want to pause before moving on to see if there's any questions that anybody has. You just type it in the comment box and I'll see it while I drink this beautiful valerian and passion flower tea. It's meant to keep me from getting too nervous. Valerian helps your blood pressure drop. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm going to move on. So we talked about the body and how it can be so empowering just to meet our bodies without judgment, because a lot of the times that we're going through something, it's for, like if we're feeling tired, or it's not because we're lazy, it's because we are holding a lot of, we're holding up half the sky for people at this point. If we are in pain, it's not because our bodies just hate us, it's because they're trying to alert us to a problem, or they are responding in ways of past traumas, which is understandable, keeps us safe. How did we evolve over millennia, right? And not die all by tigers? It's because we developed these systems. These are wise systems, and we don't have to judge them or hate ourselves for having that. And the same can be true for the emotional body. We are collectively hitting a wall right now. And I don't know about you, but I think we are all kind of in the same boat, where, at least where we are in Maryland, in the United States, quarantine, the first 2, maybe even 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, God, if I had to think about it, kind of felt like a vacation. It kind of felt like this fun, hippy dippy amorphous time where it's like, oh, we're gonna do all this stuff, and I don't have to do things anymore. I'm just gonna go walk in the woods all the time. And now reality set in, and we're all getting really freaked out and scared and just heavy, just so heavy and so sad. And I think all of us have been touched at this point by coronavirus, whether it's in our families or our friends or our friends' families. I've had clients pass away from coronavirus. I have neighbors who, thank God, are recovering. But it's getting really heavy, and that emotional toll is getting stronger. It's not getting easier, it's actually getting harder. And we think to ourselves, there's a tendency, especially in our community, I guess, communities of the United States, where we have grocery stores and stuff. We're not living in a third world country, where we say, this is so hard for me, but I shouldn't be upset because so many people have it so much worse. And people do have it worse. But just like when I said before, we're not going to judge ourselves. We'll never judge ourselves into being happy. We'll never shame ourselves into self-love. We will never should ourselves into feeling good. There's a saying, stop shoulding on yourself. It's like, stop saying, I should do this, I shouldn't do that. Because you're just creating that layered judgment onion. Judgment onion is a crazy term. I'm going to keep that. That's really fun. I'm going to pull that out again someday. But all of these feelings that we're having, whether it's, gratitude, the nice ones that feel good, gratitude and joy and connectedness, and the bad ones, right? The grief, the fear, the feeling that just, oh my God, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep going like this. This is tragic. They all belong. That's one of them. And to say, well, I shouldn't feel those ones. It's just going to keep you entrenched. It's just going to keep you entrenched in an unsustainable narrative. It's going to make it harder. And a good friend wouldn't say you shouldn't feel like that. I mean, granted, we have friends that might not be good friends and might say something like that to us, but a good friend wouldn't say, well, you shouldn't do this or that. They wouldn't try to fix us. The absence of judgment is about not feeling like the need to fix people. Compassion, gentleness is about listening and holding space and just honoring all of the things that people are going through. It's not about judging and shaming and fixing. Good friends don't do that. So just like we did with our body, I want to take a moment. I want to take a moment to just close your eyes and breathe. And notice any and all of the different feelings that are there. You can name them, that's great. It's okay if the positive, I don't want to put value judgments on the emotions, but it's okay if the ones that feel good and the ones that don't feel good, they're allowed to exist in tandem. They're allowed to exist side by side. And just like we did with the body, here with the emotional body, we can say, I'm listening. I'm just listening. And like you'd say to a friend, call me if you need to vent. Why can't we do that for ourselves too? Without telling ourselves we shouldn't feel that way. We're allowed to feel whatever we feel. And allowing ourselves the permission to feel however we feel helps us move through those feelings rather than holding on to them and stuffing them down somewhere and creating more shame and more judgment about it. Just saying, yeah, it's really hard. The stink bug just flew behind my head. That was really, really hard. It's really hard what you're going through. Oh, look, there it is. There's the stink bug. Oh my gosh. Fun. Thanks for being here. To feel into that, to give ourselves that space and that honor, to have any and all emotions that come up without logic. Emotions are not logical things. They exist outside of logic. And to, just allow that creates more space in our body for letting it go and for love. I mean, nothing was ever damaged by loving it more, right? We love without condition. We hear unconditional love a lot in songs and stuff. But like, what does that really mean? It kind of means loving somebody without judgment, without trying to fix them, without thinking that you know what's best for them when they're not asking you what's best for them. It means being that friend that maybe we've never had. And maybe it'll feel really new and weird because our subconscious mind doesn't have, oh, this is what friendship feels like as a default setting in our being yet. It doesn't mean we shouldn't do it just because our subconscious says, this is new and weird and kind of uncomfortable because it's new and weird. You keep showing up for your friends and you keep showing up for yourself. And a lot of times we think about self-care has to be this grand thing that we set aside a lot of time for because we have to make sure that, all the candles are lit and the bathtub is filled with, rose petals and essential oils. I'm like, oh God, who has time for that? So like, F that, I can't, self-care is not something I can do today. But this is self-care and it doesn't require extra time out of your day to just as feelings bubble up or as a twingy pain happens in the back of the neck or the hips, to just say, oh, hi there, yeah, okay, I feel that and thank you. Thank you, body, for telling me about how hard this is. I get it, it is hard. Or thank you, heart. Thank you for holding this really hard feeling for me, for us. You're doing a great job, and I appreciate you. You don't need to set aside a big honking chunk of time for that, to just honor yourself. And pretty soon, even though it's weird, even though it's uncomfortable and new, it becomes second nature. It becomes something you don't have to really try to do. You just do it. So I also think that applies when I held up this list earlier and I said we're going to talk about these three. We talked about physical, we talked about emotional. Same thing goes for mental. If we're having thoughts, our thoughts are spinning out of control, there's no reason you can't pause on that and say, wow, yeah, thoughts are spinning out of control. Probably because we're really scared, huh? It's okay. And that might be the hardest one, I think, because when our thoughts are spinning out of control, it's like so easy to get frustrated. So easy to get frustrated because we're already frustrated, maybe. And it can especially be hard and weird to stop and to give ourselves, this is so hard, just even thinking about it, so hard to give ourselves permission to have those hamster wheel thoughts racing through our head. It's hard. However, by allowing yourself to honor it, the absence of judgment will trick the mind into going, oh, I don't have, okay, this is okay, what are these, okay, well, Okay, thanks. I was just wanted to get your attention. Okay. And calm down immediately. Just like, you know, if there's like a kid who's throwing a tantrum, trying to get your attention, and you deflect the situation, or you just engage with that child, you engage with them, you give them the attention, say, hey, what's going on? What is it? And then all of a sudden they like, you know, they feel heard, they feel witnessed, and they're able to self-soothe, and they feel better, and they stop tantruming. Our minds are the same way. Or you know, if you're having these kind of like racing thoughts, a lot of times one of the reasons we have racing thoughts is because we're sitting there and we throw in the hamster wheel, we throw in the dryer that's going like this with our thoughts. Oh, and also I shouldn't be feeling this way. And it just makes the dryer spin that much faster. What if you just stop? What if you just say, yeah, I get it. I get it. Our thoughts are really crazy right now. Our thoughts are all over the place. Thank you, brain. Wonderful brain that's evolved over millions of millennia to be able to think a lot of things at once. That's cool. Thank you for doing that. You're trying to keep us safe and you're trying to keep us alive. Good job. And watch how it just dissolves. That's what it means to befriend the body. The physical body, the mental body, and the emotional body. So I thank you all so much for hanging out with me. I hope you learned something. I hope maybe this was interesting and relevant to what you're going through right now. Not all of it was planned. Again, this is like, you know, like I was talking earlier about how I just hear things and I just say it out loud. This was some of that. Some of this was channeled. So thank you, universe. I'm grateful. So grateful to be able to share this with you. And if you have comments, feedback, that would be really so helpful for me because this is the first time I'm doing this and I don't, it's hard to not see your faces. That's why I've been teaching in Zoom for the last 2 months, because at least I want to see people's faces. But this is, you know, changing it up. So please, any feedback that you have would be amazing. And I hope that you have a wonderful night and that you can start to befriend your body. Thank you.